link for everybody to drop it into chat. There it is. Link address. Well, apologies for that, guys. I know we're back up likely on Periscope and Twitch. YouTube is getting us, but we're on a different link, so let's get that back up and going. Apologies for that. I have no idea what just happened. I got a little pop-up saying my internet connection stunk, and sure enough, they were right. It stunk. So we're getting ourselves back up here. Let me just get another tweet out, guys, and we'll be good to go in a second. Righty. Didn't work the way that I wanted it to, but I have to do. All right, we are back up. Drop this back into Slack. Done. I will correct everything else afterwards. Final thing we were talking about. What was your question? Damian Jones, I think. That's where you and I cut off.
Yeah. Damian Jones, 4,200 on DraftKings. Probably, I think, his highest price point of the season.
Yeah, so I have him in for 20 minutes right now. I'm just so nervous about that rotation. They've got essentially 3 centers that are playing all of those minutes, and it's hard for me to want to grab one of them. Now, if I were grabbing any one of them, it would probably be Damian Jones. I just think that there's enough value out there today that I don't need to do it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, just with just other pieces of the entire slate. The one thing for Jones, and it's a positive, it's like a blessing and a curse for him, is that like neither Allen or Jordan are going to take him out to the 3-point line, so he should be able to stay on the court more, but they're also going to post him up more, which means that there's a greater chance of foul trouble. So it's sort of just probably more risky than anything.
Anybody else from Atlanta?
No, it's really just Jabari.
On the Brooklyn side, we pretty much know this rotation at this point. Nobody getting ownership. Highest amount of ownership is 9% to Garrett Temple on FanDuel. Everybody in single digits. I still like Dinwiddie even at 8,700 or 8,200, especially against Atlanta. Terrible defense. I don't mind getting to a little bit of Jared Allen. And I don't think that Taurean Prince at 5,500 on FanDuel is outlandish in this revenge spot.
Yeah. I like Dinwiddie. Yeah, I like him more than, what is he coming in at if it's single digits, like 5%?
2 on FanDuel, 4 on DraftKings.
Yeah, so I like Dinwiddie. He's just a guy who's averaging like 1.3 fantasy points per minute without these guys, Kyrie or LeVert off the court, according to Wowie. His assist numbers are in those high 30s. He's just going to do everything out there. And yeah, he's priced up now, but he was 7,700 and people were playing him. I think he's fine based on where he's priced around guys like Lillard and some other guards. You have Booker with potentially Rubio. Maybe that's drawing some of it down, but I think I might even like Dinwiddie just more than Booker probably right now, right around in that range. So yeah, Dinwiddie stands out. Jared Allen versus DeAndre Jordan, I think is interesting. They're both, Allen's the cheapest he's been in like almost a month. So yeah, he stands out. DeAndre Jordan could just as easily get a 22, 24-minute game in a nice spot. So I actually think I like Jordan slightly ahead of Allen, but I do have interest in both of them, but it's mainly just Dinwiddie.
Works for me. Yeah, the Prince revenge narrative is going to be crazy tonight for me. He's already popping up. He's been at 0.79 FanDuel points per minute over the last 30 days. I have him as a raw talent 0.82 guy. So even when he stinks, he's still just himself. And if he's playing north of 30 minutes, like against the Hawks, all jokes aside about the narrative, the Hawks give up fantasy points 8% more than average on a per possession basis. Their defense is terrible. It's a really nice spot for people from Brooklyn. So I think that's a spot that I'm probably going to have a lot more than the field does.
Yeah, I have a lot more interest in Dinwiddie than the 4%.
Right now, Taurean Prince is my favorite small forward on FanDuel relative to salary. I don't get the sense that a lot of people are going to say that sentence today.
Yeah, no. What's the what is like the drop off tonight from Giannis to whatever else?
Giannis 12-4, LeBron James 11 flat, okay. And then next closest guy is going to be Jonathan Isaac at 7,800.
Okay, yeah.
Quite the chasm. But it's really easy. What's going to be interesting is that I don't know how much value I'll need from small forward. Again, I've got 4 guys at point guard that are projecting as like 4 of my 7 best values of the day. So Maybe that gets me to more Giannis and LeBron and less to Prince, but I think that I'm going to have a lot of Prince and then a decent amount of Giannis and LeBron just to fill out my salary.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think it makes sense at that point.
So. Anybody else you want to touch on from this Hawks-Nets game?
No, I think that if Horford does play, I would imagine there's some sort of restriction around him. So I don't think that he becomes all that much in play.
No, like I said, I gave him 20 minutes if he's in. If he ends up not being in, Bembry, Reddish, those guys are going to look pretty tasty just because there's going to be a lot of wing minutes to go around.
Yeah.
All right. Keeping it moving. Game 5 now. Even with the error, man, we're moving. Boston Celtics, Miami Heat, 109.5 implied total for the Celts, 103.5 for the Miami Heat. So 6-point favorites for Boston in Boston. Tough spot. Both teams solid defensively. No Marcus Smart tonight. So maybe it's Brad Wanamaker Day again. Is everybody going to enjoy that one? No, probably not. Yeah, I didn't think so. I think Kemba looks okay for 7,700 on FanDuel. He's getting a little bit of love, 18% ownership there, 13 on DK. Jaylen Brown at 15% ownership at 7,100 on FanDuel. I think both of those ownership numbers look good. They seem like guys that I'd have roughly 15 to 20% of. I've got Daniel Tyson for 22 minutes right now. He is 3,900 on FanDuel, 4% ownership right now. Tice is a power forward. He is my second best power forward, dollar for dollar. A lot of value today on FanDuel, I think. A little bit less so on DK. Are you going to get to anybody from Boston on DraftKings?
Yeah, probably not. Nothing of priority here. So I think that the things that you said about Kemba and Jaylen Brown for FanDuel, I think they translate over at least to DraftKings for me. I probably prefer Kemba the most at 7,600, but just all these guys have difficult matchups. Jaylen Brown stands out, the cheaper price tag compared to guys like Tatum. But it's odd because, you have no Hayward still, and now with no Marcus Smart, you would think that just where these guys are, they would be more attractive, but the price points are just probably where they should be, and they get one of the worst matchups you probably could have. So I don't envision myself getting much of these guys unless their ownership just gets lower or stays at that point. It's probably Kemba, if anything, but it's mostly coming from the Miami side for me.
Sounds good to me. Do you expect Jimmy Butler to play here? I mean, I do.
Was there news? Did I miss news on it?
No.
Then yeah.
So do I.
Wait. It was okay. Yeah. So I would expect Butler to play. So pretty much just they got the overtime game and they got it all extended run. So you saw none, even without overtime in regulation, play almost 34 minutes. You had the thing that was surprising to me. Hero played just 17.5 minutes last night in regulation, nothing in overtime. I don't think there was any foul trouble on that. And you have Winslow playing 30. So just Winslow being back in the rotation is going to crush Hero, but no Dragic still. I thought that might actually bump up Hero. Yeah. I think it probably still should, but the thing that stands out the most for me is Bam. I like Bam. So he struggled in contests against Toronto, which was the recent game, and he struggled against Philly. So games that you would expect that to happen. But every other spot, he's been fantastic. Now he's down to 7,200. I mean, the guy right now is averaging 20% usage, 20% assists, around 22% defensive rebounding. It's a lot of nice things to see at 7,200. And now it is going to be a positive matchup against a Daniel Tice plus Enes Kanter front court. So I think Bam's the one that stands out the most. And if I got anything of Butler, I'd feel good. Why did you think Butler might not play just because of the overtime?
We got the message in YouTube chat about it, but I should have known better than to actually look at it.
No, that makes sense. So I think it'll be fine. I think the thing that's interesting is, so you have no Dragic still, just what happens with the rest of those just guard minutes and small forwards. And for the most part, I think it just boils down to, I would still like Butler over all of them, even at an increased price point.
Yeah, I like Butler quite a bit. He's my favorite Heat guy on FanDuel. Also my favorite Heat guy on DraftKings. I like him more on DK than I do on FanDuel. 6% ownership on FanDuel, 15 on DraftKings. I think both of those numbers are way too low. $36 on Yahoo also looks pretty tasty. He's just good across the board.
Yeah.
Kendrick Nunn projected for 19% ownership on FanDuel at 4,800. That's the biggest projected ownership for anybody on the Heat. Also Bam at 13% on DK. I want to get Butler. I want to get Bam. I'm fine with getting to Nunn on FanDuel. Justice Winslow has not been good so far this season. 0.76 FanDuel points per minute. Well below what I would expect him to be at, but he's 5,500 on FanDuel and 5,300 on DraftKings. Not getting any ownership. I had a decent amount of him yesterday. I think he rights the ship at some point in time. And I just think that he is slightly underpriced given his role. He's a guy that I'll probably get to a little bit more than the field.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, those are like I like those guys too. It's some sort of filler in like the mid to low end of it. Olynyk last night, he got all the overtime runs, so he played 30 in regulation. There was like some foul trouble from Myers Leonard, but I don't really know how much. Maybe it gave Olynyk like an extra minute or two, but I'm not really sure what to do with his minutes right now. I think like 24 to 26 is around where I usually come in on him, but he did play in regulation 30 last night. I think it probably would have been closer to 28 if there wasn't foul trouble on Leonard.
Oh, that dude is just guaranteed to play 17 minutes a game. It's craziness.
Yeah. Yeah.
17, 19, 16, 15, 17, 13, 18, 18, 18. It's just that dude is getting the same rotation no matter who is in. Craziness.
Yeah. Also, yeah. So I think Olynyk at 4,200, just like close it on him. I think he's fine right now as just value that has upside. It's a difficult matchup, of course, but I think just the way that he plays it's not as difficult for somebody of his just body type in the position that he's at. But Winslow, like if you told me Winslow's going to have a 14 to 15 shot attempt night, then yeah, I think that he's fine at the price point for sure. And that's what you saw yesterday. It spiked, but in the games where Butler takes over a little bit more and he only shoots 8 to 10 times, naturally, it's just not as great.
I don't have anything else for this game.
Yeah, a lot of these games are very meh. I think Brooklyn, like real life so far, Brooklyn and Atlanta will be a fun one to watch. But
yeah. I mean, I'd like to watch Celtics Heat. It is not like a desirable visual basketball game, but I think both teams are good. They're two of the, 4 or 5 best teams in the East?
Yeah, 2 playoff teams for sure.
Yeah, so I've got 2 teams that aren't playoff teams coming up next. But first, perfect opportunity for everybody to hit the like button on the new video. Thanks for rejoining us. We really appreciate that. Hit the notification bell on the channel so you know when we go live. Coming up later today, immediately after this, Laffy and Chris Spags taking the first look at Week 14 ownership in the NFL. We'll also have Jake taking a look at the NHL slate at 4 p.m. That will run concurrently with Alex's game plan stream, which is behind the paywall. Link is posted every day, but if you want to see it, need to be a premium sub. Highly recommend you use the promo code NBA Strategy to do it. And then 5 o'clock Eastern time, you'll get Laffy and Adam for the deeper dive. And at 6 p.m. Eastern time, the show that everybody loves, the best in the industry, if I do say so myself, Fast Eddie Fear, live before lock. Tell your friends, come in, join us. 3,500 easy tonight. We're going crazy on a 10 gamer. It's going to be good. Wait, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, God, I'm so bad at counting the amount of games. We got 5 to go. Chicago Bulls, Memphis Grizzlies. Very much 2 teams that are not making the playoffs. Bulls 6-point favorites at home. We will start on the Chicago side. Zach LaVine, 8,500, 8K on DraftKings. $31 on Yahoo probably works. The guy that I want the most in this game, and I did not think that I would ever say this, I've got my eye on Chris Dunn.
Interesting. I didn't think you were going to say that either.
So
in the whole game, or just from the Bulls? The whole game.
Chris Dunn is my favorite play in this entire game.
Okay.
He's been picking up minutes over the past 2 games. They've moved Shaq Harrison not in the rotation. Dunn is getting the additional minutes in the backcourt. 30 minutes in the last game, 29 in the game before that. I've got him in for 28. He's 4,700 on FanDuel, 4,500 on DK. This is a guy that projects as a 1 point per minute guy. He has played as a 1 point per minute guy this season. If he's going to be getting 28, 29, 30 minutes, he is underpriced for his role. And I think that he is the easiest option to get to from Chicago.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, in like the game in general, just not a lot of, I would say, appealing spots from either of these teams with just Moran out. Yeah, so right now I have to just check my own stuff on Dunn because I haven't updated him in a while. I have him at 26 minutes. So yeah, I'm definitely off on that. He's played 30 and 29. Yeah, at 4,500 again on this slate stands out. I think that from Chicago, he would still be just the guy that I would get to the most. I'm probably not going to get to much of it all. LaVine's price kind of getting away from us here. Just a guy in tournaments that's still fine. 30% usage, 22% assists, shooting 42% from 3, but just really hard to want to prioritize him at 8K around all those other guards. And then nothing else really stands out. Wendell Carter is still sort of at a price I don't want to get to, and I just don't trust Laurie at all right now.
He's been so bad. It's weird. He's
Yeah.
been so bad for what you think he wants to be. 0.82 fantasy points is still like, yeah, that's functional. You just have to separate the person you think he is from the person that he really is. I think he's like Carter, Dunn, Markkanen, Satoransky, and White all projected for roughly 15% ownership on DK. Kind of nuts. Only guy that I like in that entire group is Dunn. The rest of those guys to me are just filler. Same scenario on FanDuel. These guys are just filler outside of Dunn.
What is Levine at?
Levine is at 8% on FanDuel and 7 on DraftKings.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think I still have some interest in Levine, but it's probably like that amount of interest.
He's just a guy I never get to. Like he's a 10% guy for me. He's a guy that shows up as filler in some lineups. More often than not, I'm fine not having him. Every once in a while, the shot falls.
Yeah, and you probably want that when he's like 6,700 and not 8K.
Right. I hope I get it on the downswing.
Yep. Klay Thompson-esque.
Yep, exactly. On the Memphis side, still no Ja Morant. Still no Brandon Clark. Possible we see Kyle Anderson here. So I've got 28 minutes in for Tyus Jones. I figure Melton plays 20. It's possible that he could play a couple more. Price is starting to climb. 4,400 for Melton on FanDuel, 46 on DK. Jones is at 46 and 52. Tyus Jones for 4,600 is still a ridiculously solid value play. One of the two of the 4 point guard plays that I mentioned on FanDuel earlier in this game, Chris Dunn and Tyus Jones. I'm going to have a bunch of Jones again on FanDuel. Not as enamored with him on DraftKings. He's not getting any ownership there. Only ownership on DK coming into Jay Crowder at 14%. But Tyus Jones on FanDuel is my guy. Jackson, Brooks, and Crowder will both be guys that are parts of my core, like not core, but like 15-ish% guys. But Jones on FanDuel is the guy that I want the most. Anything stand out to you from the Grizzlies?
Yeah, I like a couple of things here. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with Kyle Anderson. Tyus Jones' price coming down also on DraftKings. Not yet to a point where I think it's just a standout play as much as it is on FanDuel, but I think it's definitely in play. 349 minutes this year without Morant on the court. He has around a 30% assist rate, a little bit better, averaging about 0.8 fantasy points per minute. So nothing crazy, but the price point's coming down. I think that Dillon Brooks is a guy who does excel with Morant off the court, over a fantasy point per minute guy. Price point coming up, but still playing enough minutes. And then Joval. If Joval plays today with this illness, we'll see. But even with the price tag all the way up to 7,900, I still like it. If I know that this guy's healthy, going to play 32 to 34, it's as good of a defensive rebounding spot as you'll get, and is one of the better block spots that you'll get from a guy who will pick up 2 to 3 to 4 blocks a game, 12% assist percentage. So $7,900 Joval, the price is getting up there. But if he's not going to carry ownership, and we'll see once that questionable tag goes off of him, but I'm going to have a lot of interest there.
That works for me. If Kyle Anderson doesn't play, oh God. Why is it that the Grizzlies every single season just end up having like ridiculous amounts of like 14th man type guys that become value? I feel like I'm constantly playing like the backup for the Grizzlies.
Yeah,
for like
it was
3
always,
or 4
it
years.
was it was always like last year. It was just always Caboclo was like every other day was like a value play of the day, and seems to be that way. Like what happens with, I guess, like all the value on this team, like Grayson Allen been playing decent minutes. If there's no Morant, like 26 to 28 minutes at 3,500 is not a great fantasy point per minute guy, but really good value price wise for the minutes. And then, I don't think Melton's going to play or continue to have a 1.3 fantasy point per minute production. So he's not much interest with the price coming up, but like guys like Solomon Hill or Caboclo, if you don't get any of these guys still with Clark out or Anderson, like what do you do with that? I'm not too sure I want to go back to it, but Solomon Hill probably more so than anything if there's no Joval too.
Yeah. Obviously I'm projecting Joval in for this one, although I was also projecting Joval in for it on Monday and played 30% of him on FanDuel, so that went well. If Kyle Anderson is out, I think Solomon Hill is probably the guy that gets the biggest boost, but 4,500 on FanDuel, 4,700 on DraftKings. He's already priced up. It's not super appealing. I think like I'd rather just stick to someone like Jay Crowder, who's slightly better.
Yeah.
It's tricky.
Yeah, his team's a mess.
Yeah, it's not fun at all. Tyus Jones on FanDuel is just the only piece that's still like wildly underpriced.
Yep. Yeah, and
Gross.
I think even Joval at like a season high price point, if he plays, I'll like him a lot.
I won't be mad if I get there. since he's been out with an illness and it's still kind of squirrely, I'm just going to assume that he doesn't have like the full gas tank. So I only have him in for 28 minutes. I think he needs every one of those 30 now that his price has come up.
I agree. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Yeah, if you give him like 32 to 33, it's a much different play.
All right. Oklahoma City Thunder, Indiana Pacers. Thunder 1-point favorites at home against Indiana. This is one of the lower implied totals of the day. In the entire game, only Malcolm Brogdon on DraftKings at 10% is in double digits in ownership. So I think that we could tackle this as a whole. I'll pitch you 2 questions. 1, do you like anybody here? 2, tell me why.
Yeah, so I like Brogdon and probably Lamb here. So it's more of a positional thing against the Thunder. So right now, Brogdon at the price point I think is still fine. So OKC ranks 30th in points per play in transition. The Pacers run really well. They're third in transition points per play. And then you also have the Pacers being a top 5 three-point efficiency team, while OKC surrenders like top 8 in the league. So it's just nice spots for guards in general. 3-point shooting, it fits really Jeremy Lamb the most. But the problem with Jeremy Lamb is he's the same price every day, like $60, $300, $62, and he'll produce you a 30-point game. But if there's ever a spot to see a spike out of him, it's a spot where a team struggles in transition and struggles to defend the 3-point line. So I have a little bit more interest in Lamb than I usually do. Nothing of a priority. And then Brogdon for the exact same reasons. I like Brogdon more. Sabonis price is up. It's just meh at this point. Same thing can be said for Turner. So Brogdon, 10% sounds fine. Maybe I'll probably have a little bit more. What is Lamb at? I imagine it's nothing.
0 on DraftKings, 3 on FanDuel.
Yeah, so I'll definitely have something of Lamb in my lineups. I just think this is the exact fit for a Jeremy Lamb good game in terms of just getting open looks in transition.
I don't know if I get anything here. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for 6,700 on FanDuel, but you could just play the audio of me recommending Shai Gilgeous-Alexander up from every show because that's just for some reason that's just how it works. Schroeder for 5,400 on FanDuel. He's $600 cheaper there than he is on DK. Like the only things that I see are basically just price deficiencies against other sites, but not really anybody that I want to get to. And the implied total is sort of speaking the reasoning behind it. Pacers defense 7% better than average on a per possession basis, limiting DFS points. These are just 2 like hard-nosed teams sort of.
Yeah.
I'm going to have trouble getting to anything. I understand why no one's getting any ownership.
Yeah, I do too. They're all just priced properly or even overpriced. Like Adams, if you're just going to look at his game logs, has looked well as of late. But this is a guy who in his last 3 out of 4 games where he had those spike performances had a combined 3 blocks and steals in each with 10-plus rebounds. And on the year, this is a guy who is well below average in steals and blocks. So I don't think that's going to keep up. And now you're paying top dollar for his 27 minutes a game.
Right. Yeah, I think it's easier if we just get away from this and go on to the next one, which I believe is going to have a lot of interesting fantasy people. The Dallas Mavericks and the Minnesota Timberwolves. 118 implied total for the Mavs, highest on the slate. 113.5 for the Wolves. That's the 3rd highest on the slate. This is the highest totaled game. Big time pace up spot for Dallas. I have them gaining 5 additional possessions over their average. 5 extra possessions for some guys like Luka Doncic, pretty big. 12.5 for Luka on FanDuel, 11.6 on DK. He's 20,500 on Fantasy Draft and $55 on Yahoo. Between 20 and 26% ownership across FanDuel and DraftKings right now. I like him a lot. If we're speaking on DraftKings, because I think it's easier to say this, he is my favorite guy to pay up for. Of everybody north of 10K, so LeBron, Trae Young, Towns, Doncic, Giannis, I think it's Doncic by a mile. On FanDuel, in terms of everybody to pay up for, while I like him like relative to salary more than the other pay up options, because of Chris Dunn, potentially Corey Joseph, who I think is an okay value, but not nearly in the same stratosphere as Dunn, Tyus Jones, and Emmanuel Mudiay, who we will get to. I think that I naturally end up with less Luka because it allows me to have more value at point guard and to pay up elsewhere. So that's going to be a bit of a roster construction thing. I'm anxious to see how that shakes out when I start running crunches a little closer to lock. So tune into live before lock for any updates there. What do you want to do with Luka Doncic on a day like today against the Wolves?
Yeah, so I think he's definitely my favorite pay up option if you can find the pieces to get there. And this is just a really good game environment. You still have Teague coming off the bench, although that doesn't really matter if Teague was in for defensive reasons, but it would probably be a tiny bit of a bump there. Been playing better this year when healthy. Something's got to give. So you have this Dallas team shoots the second most 3-pointers a game, and Minnesota allows the second fewest 3-pointers a game just by the way that they defend the line. So I don't think out of anybody in the league that does not affect Luka and guys like Trae Young, that it doesn't matter how good a team is at getting to the line. They can still shoot with a hand in their face. Just look at LeBron James tape on Luka. So I think that Luka's still fine if you want to pay up for him. But really the rest of this team, even in the game environment, not much that I like. So Kristaps, yeah, the price comes up, got in foul trouble last night after a really hot start. And Minnesota is the top team in the entire league at allowing just the fewest points at the rim. A lot of credit to Covington, been a great addition since last year for them, and Towns' improvement. So Porzingis' price is still okay, but he's more of a secondary option. It's really just Luka. Hardaway Jr.'s price point has now spiked to a spot where in this game environment, it makes some sense, but just in general, not a lot of interest. So yeah, for me, Dallas, I mean, most days, those are the three guys that I look to, but their prices right now, it's probably just Luka.
Okay. No interest in 16% owned Kristaps Porzingis. 6,900 on DraftKings.
Yeah, so I think he's more of like a secondary play for me right now. The price comes up a little bit, a tougher matchup, and then yeah, you're going to have him somewhat rested from foul trouble, so it's no real interest on back-to-backs. Like we'll see what they do here, because they did say that they want to rest this guy like 10 times a year, and back-to-backs are the time to do it. But he did have just a lot less minutes, probably 10 less minutes because of last night, so it might not be a spot that they have to do it.
Were they home last night?
I can check right now. They played at New Orleans.
Okay. I don't know. If he plays, I love Porzingis. One of my favorite plays on DraftKings. Comes in as my sixth best guy relative to salary. 6,900, just too cheap. Anybody that we just got the Porzingis blows now message in YouTube chat, which is just fantastic. Porzingis averaging 1.17 FanDuel points per minute so far this season. In my model, which accounts for all of Kristaps Porzingis' career, I have him projected for 1.20 FanDuel points per minute. So he is 3/100ths of a point off of that previous mark. What an awful player for 6,900. Guys, come on.
Yeah,
what are we doing here?
Yeah, I have him at 1.19, and completely fine. Like completely fine here. I'll be very curious to see if he does suit up.
He blocked 5 shots in 17 minutes last night.
Yeah, that was just brutal. He started with like 16 fantasy points in the half of the first quarter, and then just got into too much foul trouble.
God.
And then the game blew out.
Incredible. So I like Zinger there. I'm cool with a little bit of Tim Hardaway on FanDuel at $5K, $400 cheaper than he is on DraftKings. You can talk me into like a little bit of Dwight Powell, a little bit of Maxey. Dwight Powell has just been terrible. Maxey, not much better. I've been dying on the Dwight Powell hill pretty much every night. It's rough, but 4,100 on DraftKings. One of these days he has to be like a functional human being. Now I'll tell you this much: Kristaps Porzingis happens to be out tonight because of the back-to-back. I'm gonna have a stupid amount of Dwight Powell again.
Yeah, all those guys, Dorian Finney-Smith, Maxi Kleber, they all just open up more. Yeah, pulling up Kristaps just like game log on DraftKings right now. Yeah, it seems like the Dallas sun is doing well for him. He's got a glowing tan.
Oh yeah?
I don't know if that factors in at all for our DFS purposes, but yeah, I pulled this up and I was like, wow, look at that.
Looking a little bronze. Good for him.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Let's bounce over to the Wolves now. Towns 10-6 on FanDuel, 10-6 on DK, 18% ownership on FanDuel, and 7% on DraftKings. If I'm looking at Towns relative to everybody else on DK, I'm not like wild about him. He's viable for sure. If I'm looking at him on FanDuel, he is my favorite center. $600 more expensive than Drummond. I've got him ahead of Drummond by a hair. That would be the preferred pay-up option, but it's close. I think it's just a really good spot for Towns.
Yeah, I like him as right behind Luka as pay-up options, and he's just everything for this team. He's their best 3-point shooter by far, which is just weird to say, but 42% on the season at a pretty good sample size. So he's doing everything for the team. He is like just something that we really don't see often in terms of his skill set. Rebounding is up there close to 30%, assists above 20, 28% usage, and again, 42% from three. So yeah, behind Luka, that extra like $1,000 if I can't find it, and positionality why I'll probably be getting to Towns a good amount tonight. I like him in this spot. It just seems like he struggles to really put up a slate breaking score all that often when all these guys are healthy, but he obviously has it in his back pocket, and this game environment is as good as it's going to get. The best one on the slate.
Yeah. 1.46 FanDuel points per minute over the last 30 days. He's just playing like Cat as a really solid offensive player. I could see a little bit of Wiggins. That's pretty much it. Robert Covington at 10% on FanDuel. That's totally a positional play, I would say. There's not a lot of love coming in here from Minnesota, which is a little surprising.
Yeah, a little surprising. I like DraftKings 5,200 Covington, no Jake Layman, which probably doesn't impact him all that much outside of giving him maybe some more stable minutes of 28 to 30, at least more stability to them instead of an increase. But I'm fine getting there at 5,200. Just a tougher matchup if you're talking about like set pieces with Porzingis probably going to be around him for most of that.
That'll work. 2 to go here. Again, coming up after this, Laffy and Chris Spags talking week 14 in the NFL and ownership projections. But first, Utah Jazz, LA Lakers. Jazz 2.5-point favorites at home. This is the game with the lowest implied total, or the lowest total overall, I believe. Nope. Slightly ahead of Hornets Warriors, but still low nonetheless. For the Jazz, no Mike Conley tonight, which is going to be a really, really interesting ripple effect through the rest of this team. If Rudy Gobert is playing 7,800 on FanDuel, 7,500 on DK, Rudy Gobert for 7,800 on FanDuel is my favorite center option of the day on that site. How do you feel about Gobert? Let's start there.
Yeah, on FanDuel, I think he's completely fine. On DraftKings, yeah, 7,500, I like the spot for him. Just overall, the matchup is maybe not the greatest for him, but probably the opposite side a little bit tougher. So, yeah, Gobert at 7,500. I think it's fine. It's not something that stands off the page for me. He's probably like $500 too cheap, and just being on DraftKings, probably other guys that I want to get to a little bit more, but I'm completely fine with it. I don't really have a strong take. If I got like 15, 20% of him, around 15%, I'd probably feel okay with.
Yeah, I think that I'm going to. So the bummer for me is that he's already at 21% ownership. I was hoping that Gobert would fly under the radar, but he is essentially the chalk center along with Drummond and Cat. So there's just really not a lot to like at center on FanDuel today. Towns, Drummond, Gobert making up 60% of all of the exposure. I assume that I have more to those three, but it's hard to really get any leverage when everybody's already owning them. Now we need to talk about what happens with Mike Conley out. And this could go many different directions. So I'm anxious to get your thoughts. I gave Emmanuel Mudiay 24 minutes. If he gets 24 minutes, he's the flat min on FanDuel. He's 3,200 on DraftKings. He's one of the better point per dollar plays of the day, and I expect to get ownership. He's projected for 16 on FanDuel, 28 on DK, so that doesn't seem all that outlandish. Any Emmanuel Mudiay thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's just the tandem of all these backup guards that I'm questioning. So, yeah, it's either going to be Exum or Mudiay. And you had Exum check in the last game for Conley, not due to injury, just normal in the first quarter rotations. And he played like 5 minutes and 7 minutes in the whole game. Mudiay played just 5 in a tough matchup against Philadelphia. So I don't really know what to take from that. We haven't really had this situation because Exum hasn't been healthier earlier in the year when Conley was out.
Right.
So Mudiay has been the guy that's filled in and the guy that you've seen get the majority of the run. But since Exum's come back, that's been really just kind of strangle-held down. So I would lean Mudiay as well. I want to see what they do with the starting lineup. I think without a doubt it benefits Mitchell. And we saw it a lot last year that they were very willing to just give Joe Ingles point guard responsibilities. Yeah. So I think that that's another spot where they can go. And yeah, you can still get Mudiay and Exum playing minutes, but maybe only like 18 to 20. And it's nothing that really impacts much.
Yeah, so I gave Mudiay 24. I gave Exum 16. Not at all confident in that. I really want to hear some more information, find out who's starting. Donovan Mitchell, 34% owned on FanDuel, 34% owned on DraftKings. I'm a fan, but that feels high.
Yeah, that feels high, but I really like him. I'll probably be around that. So he's always been all year long, like around 78, 7,900. So you get a price drop maybe because of the matchup, but if the Lakers are going to throw Rondo out there for more minutes, it gets better for Mitchell. And now you get no Mike Conley. So I understand why he's there. He's been solid all year long, and now he's at one of his lowest price points on the year. So I'm right now, I do think it's high too. So I want to see where it comes in around, but I do have a lot of interest. I would not be shocked if I'm around there. So I think that Mitchell, big benefit from Conley being out, more point guard responsibilities, more driving, and then probably Ingles at 4,900 after that is a guy that I'll take a stand on right now. I don't know where the ownership is, and just think that he'll see more minutes.
4% Joe Ingles right now.
Yeah, I like that. So I just, in general, at 4,900, he can still get you there if he sees no impact from Conley being out, but he's going to probably see some sort of impact. And there's the upside that they just say, carry the ball for us for 10 to 15 minutes in this game.
Very possible. We're also seeing Bojan Bogdanovic at 23% ownership on FanDuel, 13 on DraftKings. Royce O'Neal getting a little bit of love. We're going to need a little bit more information, but I think that whoever starts at point guard for the Jazz is going to be someone you're going to want. And then I don't know. I think I'm going to have a lot of Jazz. Gobert, Mitchell, Bojan, Moutier for me right now are going to be four relatively core pieces, at least on FanDuel. Mitchell and Moutier on DraftKings as well. Although I would certainly be fine getting to a little bit of Dante Exum if we find out that he's going to start or something along those lines.
Yeah, so I think that's where it gets difficult because, whoever starts is the more appealing one, but this game doesn't lock until 9 p.m. I'm honestly not shocked if they just go Mitchell at point and then just Ingles at shooting guard or something like that. They did that last year a good amount, different personnel, but yeah, this can go, like you said, one of like 4 or 5 different ways. So it's going to be really difficult because I don't know if we'll have that by the 7 o'clock locks. We probably won't.
Yeah, probably not. Jacob Treadway, Josh, you said Gobert and Cat are both your favorite plays on FanDuel. Is that like having multiple best friends? Sorry, that's just a misspeaking. So Cat, I prefer Cat as my pay-up center. Gobert is my best dollar-for-dollar option for the position.
There you go.
Wanted to clarify. Head to the Lakers now, where, as far as I'm concerned, they only have 2 guys, but you'd be hard-pressed to find them considering neither one of Anthony Davis or LeBron James projected for more than 9% ownership on either site. AD $200 cheaper than LeBron on FanDuel, 10.8 to 11K. On DraftKings, AD 9,400. LeBron James is 10K. I don't know. I mean, I prefer AD by a hair to LeBron on DK. I like Luka better than both guys, but I think that I would rather have LeBron and AD before I got to Towns and Young on DraftKings. How do you feel about the two-headed monster in Los Angeles for the Lakers?
Yeah, so I like AD more. Yep. Yeah, I like AD more right now at 9,400. Getting Denver and now Rudy Gobert in Utah is just like the worst 2-game stretch you can have. I still like him at 94. I think right now I have Towns ahead of him, but then it goes AD for those pay-up options. I like AD more than Drummond, so I'll get to some of him. I'll feel fine getting to like 10, 15%. LeBron is really nowhere to be found right now for me, which is a little bit concerning. I'll probably have to dig more into that, but those are the only 2 pieces. I think every single day we talk about them. Like, look at the salary drop-off from AD at 9,400 to JaVale McGee at 4,100 on DraftKings is the 3rd most expensive player. Just insane. So, that's it. Rajon Rondo in this matchup, I don't really think he'll get 26 plus minutes or something. So I think he's okay value at 4K, but not anything I'm trying to get to. It's really just Anthony Davis from here and not much of it.
Yeah, we're on the same page. There's just nothing. Really hard to recommend anybody else from the Lakers. Nobody else does anything.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. It's just that just tells you the whole team right there if you don't even know about basketball. That price drop off from AD to McGee of $5,000+ is the 3rd most expensive is insane.
Yeah, it's 94 to 41. Closing it out, Portland Trailblazers, Sacramento Kings. Blazers 3-point favorites at home against the Kings. Portland looking relatively normal here. Lillard at 15% ownership on DraftKings at 8,100. That's appealing as far as I'm concerned. Probably like him a little bit more on Fantasy Draft at 14.7. CJ McCollum coming in as a chalky shooting guard option. 6,900 on FanDuel, 24% ownership. Nobody else getting any real love other than those 2 guys. I get the CJ love on FanDuel. That's very much a positional thing. I understand why people would get to Lillard. I'll probably have roughly 15% as well. nothing here standing out to me as a guy that I just have to make sure I have in my lineup.
Yeah, from the Portland side, Lillard's the one who stands out just price wise. 8,100 is the lowest we've seen that in a while. Still 30+% usage guy, 30+% assists. So I like Lillard a good amount. He's right there. It's going to be interesting because there's just so many guys that with Devin Booker, Dinwiddie, and Lillard all around the 8K range, they're probably going to just cut into each other's ownership. And Lillard and Dinwiddie probably both rise around 20% for me, or 15-20%. So I think Lillard's okay. I'm not getting to as much of McCollum right now. Whiteside's price still not to a spot that I really want to get for it, but a really nice spot for him. 4% blocks guy, always been a blocks guy, at a nice spot against Sacramento. And then, yeah, you just get like these value plays like Rodney Hood. The one thing I was looking for was Lillard's production coming down, if it was impacted at all by just Melo being there, but the volume's still the same. So it's really not Melo taking shots away from him as much.
I got to point something out. This was information I got from Adam probably Monday. Terry Stotts has been staggering Dame and CJ Moore. And
Yeah,
in those moments where they get staggered, Dame's rates climb through the roof. So the more they play apart from each other, the bigger boost you might see to Dame in the near future. So it's possible you start to see him climb because they have been staggered a little bit more. But all kudos to Adam for catching that in the rotations as of late. It's happened in at least the last two games. I don't know what it looked like for last night.
Yeah, no, I didn't know that either, but that's good information. And now you're getting Lillard at a bottom of the barrel price point to kind of jump onto it. So
Right.
yeah, I'm going to look more into that as well, but that's definitely good to know. And yeah, Lillard already like him. That makes me like him even more.
For sure. I don't have much else to say though for Portland. These guys are all just sort of priced where they should be. They're rounding into the form of a normal Portland team where like their rotation is the same all the time and their prices get really steady. And if everybody's going to just be sitting in that same sort of price range, it's pretty easy to just get away.
Yeah, I agree.
Sacramento side, 21% ownership coming to Rashawn Holmes on FanDuel at 7K. That's pretty much just where he is all the time, mostly because he's a power forward. Harry Barnes at 18%, Corey Joseph at 18%, B. Jelly at 10%. That's all FanDuel numbers. Only Corey Joseph at 11% on DraftKings is standing out. My favorite play is Holmes on FanDuel. I'll be getting to Holmes. I'll be getting to Buddy Hield. If Bogdan is in, I will certainly be getting to him at 5,700 on FanDuel. A little bit of Corey Joseph works, but I have him pretty handedly behind Chris Dunn and Tyus Jones and potentially Emmanuel Mudiay if we get more information. So here's the question for you. What are you doing with the Kings?
Yeah, I think right now, depending on what happens with Bogdan, that'll change some things. But I like Buddy Hield the most right now for me on DraftKings, 7,400. And it's not a lot. None of these guys stand out too much. Very surprising to see he's just still been without Bagley or Fox, a 1 fantasy point per minute producer. Hasn't really spiked that much. But when you're getting him at this price point, you're pretty much getting his 35 minutes and around an average player every night who we know has a ceiling on him. So I do like Hield probably the most. Rashawn Holmes is right where he should be priced. Again, a fantasy point per minute producer, going to play 32, 33 minutes. So he's not anything of a priority for me. I want to see what keeps happening with some of these just small forward and power forwards. Barnes is just locked into a ton of minutes, but with Bielitsa, you had Ariza come back in the last game, played just 12 minutes off the bench. So it ended up not impacting Bielitsa. Bogdan only saw 22, and I was wondering why, but I'm assuming this hamstring injury is a reason why for that. There was nothing else indicating him seeing less time. Right. So, yeah, so I think that kind of gives you a spike to Bielitsa. If Bogdan's in and plays fully, I think you probably just get Bielitsa seeing like 26 minutes, and Ariza has to cut into that at some point. So it makes him less attractive if Bogdan's in. If not, then I actually think it helps Bielitsa in just a weird way for rotational minutes, and I would have more interest there.
Bogdan does have the quote that he is in constant pain, which is not what you want to hear, but I think it's just sort of one of those things that he's just going to have to deal with, and it's probably going to flare up from time to time.
Yeah.
We did get a $4 super chat from Cody J that said, "What's the best value play at center?" Let's hit that, and then we can go ahead and get out of here. If you want to give the answer from DraftKings perspective, I could hit it from FanDuel.
Yeah, so I'll kind of go with the sense that just value means like cheaper play instead of point per dollar overall, but I'll just say check Diallo on the cheaper end at 3,800 on DraftKings.
I would agree with you there. On FanDuel, from a cheap perspective, like Rudy Gobert, I think is the best value. He's 7,800, so I don't know if that's necessarily as low as you're trying to go. I will be one of the few people in the industry that says it's Dwight Powell at 4,700, but I just think that there isn't anybody on FanDuel today that is a legitimate value option. Maybe Mo Bamba or like one of the two Lakers centers, but I don't think that there is value at center tonight on FanDuel. I don't think that's a spot where you want to pay down.
Yeah.
There we go. 10 games up, 10 games down pretty easily outside of our minor hiccup in the middle, which unfortunately just means that I have to spend an extra 10 minutes merging two separate audio files to put on the podcast feed. Not something that I'm always clamoring to do. But Josh's closet must look like a lids store. Sort of. They all came basically directly from Mitchell and Ness, though, so I don't have to go to lids. I don't have anything else. Sal, any final thoughts? And if not, let the people know what you've got going on.
Yeah. No final thoughts right now. Just track these news. I'm really interested to see what happens with Kristaps today, if they'll play him. And then, just content over on the YouTube channel, Sal Vetri, if you're interested in just NBA and NFL stuff over there. And excited today to, I was talking to Josh before the show, this 18 Tiger Woods hosted golf tournament, the Hero. I'm excited to watch some of that today.
I'll watch it. I'll watch it. That's for sure. I can't be playing where I have to hit the literal nuts to win. That's too difficult.
Oh yeah, man. I set highest salaries to 49,000 and we go from there.
There you go. Enjoy it. Guys, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, check out all of the content we've got coming up later today. Lofty and Spags kicking it off in about 5 minutes, so tune in there. Best of luck for tonight. I will be back later for Live Before Lock, but we've got plenty of content, so go check it all out. Head to Awesemo.com or just go straight to Yahoo and use the promo code Awesemo to get up to $30 in Yahoo Sports Rewards points. Thanks, guys.